We are here. It is draft week. We're finishing up our positional rankings, our final rankings for the back seven, linebackers, cornerbacks, and safeties on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers. And if you're new to the program, welcome. Please, if you hang out with us a lot or a little, please subscribe. It helps us out tremendously, helps other folks find the show. You can subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you listen to your podcasts. And today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay tuned for the Armada Player of the Week later in the show. All right, let's get this going. We got three position groups. We got to get to our top and then maybe some sleepers here in all these classes. Let's start with linebacker. And we can do three position groups on today's show, Matt, because these are three of the weaker positions in this entire draft class. And while the D line is just deep, and there's going to be more just defensive linemen drafted than linebackers, cornerbacks, and safeties combined in this class, I think.
I think you're right, especially day one, day two. I mean, by far, probably, the more I think about it. I mean, we're going to get two safeties max, probably one linebacker max in the first round. I also think the league, it's an interesting time in linebacker land. You know, the league, before free agency opened, a lot of teams re-upped their free agent to be off-the-ball linebackers. And I think the league is quickly realizing that Devin Bush and Devin White and all these high picks aren't worth it because it's so hard to adapt the linebacker position. I don't want to use a first-round pick or a top 10 pick on an athlete learning to become a linebacker. So Kyle Shanahan can manipulate him like he's a child,
right?
You know,
so that's the difficult part. Is the positional value is high because it's so hard to play the position. And
you find one.
Hard to find players that can be good on rundowns, that have the athleticism, that can cover tight ends and running backs, that aren't going to be put in a blender by the Shanahans and the Andy Reids of the world. But at the same time, we see a high bust rate for the top guys, and it's not just about pure athleticism and height, weight, speed at linebacker anymore. And then, gone are the days of the 6'4", 250-pound thumpers at linebacker too. And when it comes to this class, I think it's really telling because there's only two clear grades at the top, and everything else is a crapshoot. Because I mean, it's the easiest class ever, and it probably is not going to end up this way, right? There's going to be some surprises, and it never turns out the way you think it's going to before the draft. But I don't see how there's any other way that teams don't have a first round grade on Jihaad Campbell, even if it's a late first round grade, right? And a second round grade on Carson Schlesinger. Then after that, I have no idea. It could be anybody at 3 and anybody at 15, and they're all like 220 pounds.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the exact same way. Campbell's such a tremendous athlete, brings a lot of pass rush to the table, certainly stands out on tape, even to the untrained eye. Oh, who's that? Okay. I mean, you get your attention. Schlesinger does have size, 6'2.5", 242, and is, I hate the word instinctual, but sees things, recognizes it, doesn't take a lot of false steps, not a poor athlete by any stretch. So, yeah, they're clearly the top two.
So he's really good in zone coverage and smart.
Yeah.
He can move around and be that kind of a defender for you. And I love the Jihaad Campbell threw down everything. And I think that's why I'm kind of higher. And I think teams are going to feel better about guys like Jihaad Campbell, Mykel Williams, players that were I'm going to throw down everything. I'm not afraid of my height, weight, speed. I'm not afraid of my 40. I'm going to give it all to you, and you do with what you want with it. And there's so many prospects more than ever that didn't run 40s, that have incomplete pictures off the field, on the field. And so I think a GM's probably going to feel there's a little bit of injury stuff with Jihaad Campbell right now, but I think GMs are going to just feel really good about Jihaad Campbell, which is why he's probably not going to get out of the top. I think probably 20 picks in this class, 4.52 at 6'3", 235. So he has everything. And we see so many linebacker to defensive end conversions. Jihaad Campbell's the rare pass rusher who has natural pass rush skills transition to off-ball linebacker transition. You don't see that very often.
No, that's a good point. And again, there's a lot there to like, no question. Now, I wonder, I just said teams aren't going to overdraft linebackers, but Schwesinger's sitting kind of pretty that day one goes through and maybe in the top 10 picks of the second round, everyone's looking like I only have one linebacker answer left. The other guys are all third, fourth special teamers, see how they work out. Schwesinger might get picked pretty high.
And could even sneak into the first round. He could be one of those little sneaky first round picks if a team really wants an off-ball backer and is like, I don't know what to do with the rest of this class. So that's the question to you now, Matt. What do you do with the rest of it? Who's the top 5 linebackers? You got to pick 3, 4, and 5.
I went Stutzman from Oklahoma, 6'3 plus, has some girth to him. Barely overnight from South Carolina. I like his game quite a bit. I just don't see all that much. And then the typical tiny will linebacker, Chris Paul from Ole Miss, who's just under 6'1", 222 pounds, who probably played some at 215.
Yeah.
The other were, I mean, he looks little, he
is small and and I think he's bulked up to the 220. Like
that's what I think too. He's trying to convince people to combine he's big,
Yeah, and you see him in the upper body and he's like actually kind of strong up there, but he's got, he's like the linebacker version of we talk about with Pierce. He's just thin hipped, he's just I think he's maxed out at what he's going to be, or if he could be 235, he'd probably be 235 right now. He's small.
Chris Paul, the point guard.
Yeah, he's not much different. Pooh Paul, by the way, is the nickname. Pooh, like we need the Pooh. Differentiate the basketball player and the. It's funny because he's Chris Paul Jr. as well. So like, is that Chris Paul's kid? What the heck?
I know. I immediately thought that when I saw it the first time.
And by the way, Demetrius Knight. I think we talked about this because you always talk about like a player in the Pips. It's like Nick Bosa in the Pips right now on the 49ers defensive line. Demetrius Knight is actually related to Gladys Knight. I think they're like cousins. Cool. So Demetrius Knight in the Pips. Hopefully he's got somebody playing with him on whatever defense he ends up with in the NFL. Demetrius Knight got the size, 6'1.5", 235, 4.58 40-yard dash. He doesn't really play that fast to me. He's kind of just a step slower than what you would expect looking at his physical profile. And I like Chris Paul better there, but Chris Paul is like under 6'1", 220. 4'6", like I don't know, he's not going to be for everybody. So like almost all of these guys, Danny Stutzman, not that good in coverage. He can get downhill and tackle you. He's more of an old school linebacker. So I don't know if he's a great fit as well, but I would see a team at least liking him as a run defender. It's almost like they're all day 3 guys. So I'm just going to wait. And whoever's there in the 5th round, if I can get Barrett Carter, I like that more than trying to draft Chris Paul in the 3rd or Demetrius Knight in the 2nd or 3rd, or Jeffrey Bossa is kind of, a late addition to the position, is also in his 220-pound range. So, man, I just really don't know what to do with this class overall. And gun to my head, you got to make a list of top 5s.
Brutal.
I think, it is tough. I think 3rd, I would go Barrett Carter.
Okay.
Just because you get 230 pounds, you get athleticism.
Yeah.
Kind of fell off a little bit later. And he was probably a guy that was on the path to being a 2nd round draft pick earlier in his Clemson career. And then probably I like Jeffrey Bossa a little bit. I do like Knight. I would probably put Knight after Bossa, and I would put him before Chris Paul. So Chris Paul's kind of like 6. I don't like the size, but I love the way he plays, which means I would love to draft Chris Paul if he's there for me later, if everybody else drafted everybody else. So essentially this class is weight on it. Kane Medrano, the teammate of Carson Schwesinger's, really fast, 4.46 40. He looks like a safety. He's 6'3", 222 pounds, really slim, but he's fast. If you can keep him clean for a will linebacker, probably be a good special teamer. Teddy Buchanan, I think the most underrated maybe in this class. And 6'2", 230, ran a 4.6 out of Cal. Cal's got a really solid group of day 3
back 7.
In the back 7. We're going to hear a lot about them on this episode. Nick Martin as well, 220 pounds, 4'5". He's a little bit shorter at 5'11.5. But man, again, I'm going to wait on this linebacker class after the top 2 guys.
Yeah, you named pretty much all the names. The other ones I was going to throw in there is like just missed round 4 or 5 are Georgia's Mondon Jr.
Yep.
Mondon Jr.
Ishmael Monder. Yes, I think it's Ishmael, but without the I. Ishmael.
Okay, cool. And Kaiser from Notre Dame.
Throw your hands up at the linebacker position. Just pick one of these little guys, and I think in the end, the ones that you think can cover a little bit, that could play on early downs and aren't too small for your defense. That's why I've kind of got Barrett Carter still as that guy. That's my number 3.
A lot of core special teamers next year, though.
Just wait and see who's there. You can't really wait on corner. It's almost a similar class to what we're talking about. A few more names to get into at corner, and then the safety class might be the weakest of them all, outside of a couple of players I really like in the safety class. Next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Yeah, we're talking 4K. You're streaming all your shows in all the beauty of 4K. But did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including, I'm sure there's a lot of college football fans out there, EA Sports, College Football 25, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Avowed, all of your Xbox games. And as easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's a gaming console made simple. And it's also on your Fire TV. And we're talking about streaming and high quality entertainment. How about watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and so much more. All you got to do is head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. Corners. I hate the cornerback class. The more I look at it.
I hate the top. I like the 3rd, 4th round guys that don't cost as much.
Yeah, but you might not really even get a guy in the end, too. So it's
right.
Like, what do you do here? You just find your favorite, I guess. It's kind of the theme to the linebacker and cornerback class. And even the guys at the top, I really am starting to have a lot of problems with Jahdae Barron and Will Johnson at the place where I think you have to draft them.
Yeah.
Jahdae Barron, I love as a nickel, but the league has told us they don't value nickels, even though they're getting paid a little bit more. They're still not getting paid like outside guys, and they're still getting drafted later. Like if Cooper DeJean is falling to pick 40, I've talked about this a lot, and Brian Branch is falling to pick 45, how do you take Jahdae Barron in the top 15? Because he's got 200 snaps of outside cornerback man coverage on his college career tape and looked awesome as a nickel and an interior guy and played some safety early in his career. If you're going to maximize his talent, I think you got to move him around and play him inside as a nickel. It's valuable. I love him there, but it's not an outside corner. And what do you pay for with an outside corner is their man coverage abilities. And he might even have more than we expect, but he doesn't have the length profile. And again, 1,000 snaps in his career at outside corner, and I think less than 20% of them were man coverage. So he's his own corner. And Will Johnson's kind of an off corner as well, and clearly afraid to run a 40. When's the last time you saw a first-round corner that was healthy not run the 40-yard dash? So what do you do with Will Johnson, even though the tape is really nice and he's smooth out there?
So Hunter's clearly my one, but we've talked him to death. You know,
wide receiver, we didn't really talk about Hunter. He's just like he's his own thing.
Yeah, he's his own thing. If he's just a corner, I'd way take him over Johnson or Barron.
Clearly corner one in this class.
Now, Johnson and Barron are 2 and 3 for me. I did them in that order, but they're so different. They don't really even play the same position. I could see taking Barron over Johnson, Johnson over Barron, but I don't like, to your point, where you have to take either one. I saw a lot of selfishness in Will Johnson this past year, too. I mean, maybe that's an extreme word, but he wasn't, after winning the national title and dealing with some injuries and the season didn't go, I mean, he was more for himself, and I would have to sit down with him. Barron, at least, is a big-time team. Wherever you want me, coach, I'll do it. Throw his body around. Johnson wasn't that way, but I do think Johnson's best days are clearly more valuable than Barron's. But it's 2 years ago.
My comp for Will Johnson, which is why in my last mock draft I had him going to the Raiders, and I thought he might throw down a 40 before that. He did not. So maybe Raiders in the second round. My comp for Will Johnson was Richard Sherman with the way he plays. So he's in the right scheme. I love him, and he could be awesome. But he's actually smaller than I thought, too. He's He's 6'1.5", which is fine. 194 pounds, so he's not big and imposing, and shorter armed. So sub 31-inch arms, which I didn't expect either. I thought he was going to be a longer player. So I don't, the film is good, but it's a lot of off. And so I think he might be in for a little bit of a slide. And so who knows? Maybe even Raiders in the second round, or maybe the Raiders trade up for him. I don't know, but I think he's a perfect fit for those cover 3 teams out there. But as I think was it Dan Quinn or Gus Bradley, one of the defensive coordinators for the old Seahawks Legion of Boom era teams, said he's like, I can find a zone corner at 7-Eleven, essentially.
Yeah, right.
And so what are you paying for? And so a little rich for where I think you have to draft Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron right now, even though they both might be really good players in the NFL. And then you get to a guy who was not afraid to throw down a 40, and Maxwell Hairston ran a 4.28, not the biggest guy, 5'11.5", 183 pounds, but twitched up. Azariah Thomas, the opposite. He did run a 40 and then ran a 4.6. So that's not great, even though the tape is good. So again,
he plays man. Yeah.
Matt, who are you top 5 corners, and who are you really throwing down on? Who are you betting on in this class?
Yeah, I love Ravel, and I know that he's injured, but I think there's all kinds of man coverage traits there. He's 3rd for me, but if he was clean, he might be 1. And I would have loved to seen him go against the Texas wide receivers, the Ohio State wide receivers, etc.
East Carolina, and so you got a question of competition, and then now there's injury, so we don't really know. Although we know from past workouts, he's super athletic, has the length, 6'2", 202, long arms, so that's good. But you're taking a swing, but you don't have to take a swing as early as you might have in the first round if he was healthy. So maybe you do get him sometime on day 2, and I'm with you. It's like, okay, you got to take Jahdae Barron in the top 15, or you want to swing on Siobhan Ravel. Or Savone, I believe is how you're supposed to pronounce it.
It is Savone, yeah.
In maybe the top of round 3, like that a lot better.
I bet you're gonna have to pay more than that. And I'm just going to sidetrack. So I didn't put him in my top 5, but if I can get Benjamin Morrison at the top of round 3, I'm the Titans, a bad team, or somebody like that. I think his tape is great. But I'm not a doctor, and he's got man traits all day long too.
Yeah, he would definitely be in the top 5 of this, and he might be in number 1 with less questions, but he's got more questions because of the injury, because at least Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron are going to play for you. It's almost like a Caleb Farley type of a situation.
Right. That was bad.
Like, love the tape, love the prospect, but his injury situation is very serious. And so I don't even know what to do with Benjamin Morrison. Either you draft him pretty high and you believe he's going to be okay, or you take him off your board completely, maybe because of the injuries. Like both hips, that's a weird one. Yeah, you don't see that.
Yeah, I know. So 3, 4, 5 for me are Ravel, Amos from Ole Miss, Hairston. Hairston's size worries me. I mean, he's aggressive, but sometimes he just pinballs off people too.
And I say it all the time, like the guys with the best 40 times, like that's not a great
usually
group
not
to be involved.
Right?
To be honest with you,
history.
take all your 4.2 players, and you might get a Chris Johnson, CJ2K occasionally, but you can have all the 4.2 guys. Just give me the guys who are fast enough. And I think the guy who maybe helped himself the most, because we talked about all these question marks. Who we haven't poked a lot of holes in is Trey Amos.
That's what I say. I can't find anything wrong with him. He's a little older. He doesn't have an A+ trait, but fine. He might be a great number 2 for 10 years. Fine.
6'1", 195, ran a 4.43, and you start looking at all these players and think, well, at least I know what I'm getting in Trey Amos.
Exactly. And again, I think I'd rather wait until 3rd, 4th round for Noel Williams, Quincy Riley, Strong from Virginia Tech. Ransaw is a really good athlete from Tulane. I'm really interested in him.
Jacob Parrish, the way he plays.
Yeah, it's a good one.
He ran fast too, former sprinter. For 1.54 10-yard split, which is scorching. 4.35 40 at 5'10", 191. Love the way he plays the run. He'll probably get pigeonholed as more of a nickel, even though I think he's actually a little bit tighter and might be better outside still. So, some questions there, but the way he plays, he triggers fast against the run, which is, I think, why some teams will like him inside. So Jacob Parrish is fun to watch. I was actually surprised.
If he's 6 foot, is he definitely in the top 2 or 3?
He's probably up there, especially with the way he plays. Yeah. You mentioned Noel Williams again. He's kind of checked some boxes, not dynamic speed, but 4.50. He's 6 feet and a half, 199. I was surprised because I thought he was going to be a day 3 guy that would be a sleeper, but in the Beast, Dane Brugler had him as a second, third round guy, and just right behind Savon Ravel in his rankings. So that's interesting out of Cal. So Cal, some sleeper defenders there. Noel Williams, definitely one of those, along with Teddy Buchanan, and a safety I want to talk about in a little bit. A guy I don't like, who worked out like a maniac, is Darian Porter from Iowa.
We had to bring him up. It's so weird. He's old. I don't think he's good at football, but he's like the best athlete I've ever seen.
Yeah, 6'3", 195, 4.30, 151, 10-yard split. Like, that's like big-time track athlete numbers there. Long arms, 33 and a half. He didn't even start at Iowa State.
He's a one-year starter at corner, and he was a receiver / special teamer, but he doesn't really tackle anybody.
Even his 1 year starting, he was kind of like on and off the field too. It was weird. It was a rotation.
By the time he becomes a starter in the league, he's probably going to be 27, and then you got to pay him. You got to pay him. But boy, the traits are insane.
Another sleeper, a name that might not be a household name right now, Bilal Kone out of Western Michigan, small school guy, but really helped himself at the Senior Bowl, and then showed up 6'1" and a quarter, 190 pounds, ran 4.43, kind of a smooth player, outside corner. And so there's another name to remember as well as a sleeper on the list at corner. A couple more later, Upton Stout, smaller.
Stout is really fun.
Yeah, but he has to be a nickel because he's so small.
Oh, yeah.
181, but 4.4, can run around, make plays. Tommy Hill's an interesting one.
That's another older guy I like, but no times. I like Tommy Hill a lot.
I like Tommy Hill as maybe even he's an outside corner. He's got the size, 6 feet and a half, 213. I feel like a safety conversion there with Tommy Hill.
Maybe.
And boosting the next group we're going to talk about.
Oh, and Wally from Minnesota is another one of my faves. Take a look at him if you haven't. He's a solid player. He looks like maybe a number 2 corner, which is a compliment.
A lot of nickels in this class. Elijah Huzzy from North Carolina is another one, 5'10", 193. Didn't get a 40 time on him. Kobe Bryant. So we got Chris Paul and Kobe Bryant, by the way, in this class.
Yeah, good backcourt.
So they named him Kobe Bryant, spelled it differently, Cobee, out of Kansas. But then he also calls himself Mamba. And it's like, come on, you're going to play the whole?
Taking a little too far, Kobe.
Don't be a poser out there. Come on, just be your own guy. He's really slim, and he didn't run that well. He's not one of my favorite sleepers, but
I don't either. And he'll be the second Kobe Bryant in the league here coming up.
I know. and the second Chris Paul, right?
Yeah, not enough Michael Jordans.
Right, yeah. Well, we've already gone through that.
I'd say generations back.
So many kids, so many guys name their kids Jordan. So there's a lot of those. Next, let's talk safety class.
Yes.
In the 2025 NFL draft. Not a great one, but there's some really good players too. I think I can put my name next to some of these guys. Some official stamps of approval on a very few select names in the safety class. Next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by the Nissan Armada and this week's Nissan Armada Clear Cut Player of the Week. And each week we're taking a look at a draft prospect that stands apart, the guy we believe can showcase the strength and power to push the team forward as we look into the 2025 season and beyond. And when it comes to this class, heavy duty, rugged, conquers the road with capability and confidence. When you dream big, you can go big with the Nissan Armada. And what prospect fits that for me? I'm going to go with Carson Swessinger. And I was really pleasantly surprised. We talked about him at linebacker. The way he triggers against the run, the way he can move in space. And he's a self-made guy, no star recruit coming in, making himself into one of the few 240-pound linebackers that can actually move around and had some really good workouts, even though he didn't run a 40. He's a player that's going to stick in the league, I think, for a long time at linebacker, middle linebacker, will linebacker. That's my Armada clear-cut player of the week. So when it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer. That's exactly what I think Carson Swessinger out of UCLA can do here. And it's clear that our player of the week is ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the Nissan Armada or the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder. So go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. It's come down to 2 safeties as the number 1, and it was Malaki Starks out of Georgia all along. Emmanwori goes crazy the combine. He overtook him as the top safety. I think there's prospect fatigue with Malaki Starks. He's still my safety one. Who is your safety one?
Me too. And I don't love either, to be honest. Like, I'm just going to cut to the chase. I think there's 4 really good safeties in this class. And I used to think Emmanwori and Starks were the clear tier 1, and Winston and Watts were the clear tier 2. Maybe that's still true, but I think the 4 are closer the more I look at them than I originally thought. I'm going to go with Starks 1, just because I think this position, like linebacker, is played above the neck more than jumping and running and sprinting and wingspan, and
description is in the name, the title of the name, right?
Safe.
The position. It's a safety. Malaki Starks is safe. He's going to be in the right place.
Yep.
He can play deep safety for you. You can come down and cover. 6'1", 200 pounds, 4.50. Don't overthink it. He's the number 1 safety in this class. Now, do you take that in the top 15, top 20 picks? Maybe not. But if you slide into those good teams at the end of round 1, they're going to get a really nice player at Malaki Starks. Emmanwori, much more boom or bust. But I mean, you got to pay attention when someone's 6'3", 220 and runs a 4.38.
Yeah, and some of the mistakes he makes with angles or reads, he makes up for because he covers so much ground and he's so huge. He's better near the line of scrimmage. But I wouldn't be thrilled if my favorite team took either one of these guys at 15 to 22. I mean, if I'm the Bills and I have Josh Allen, I go to the playoffs every year, yeah, great. If I'm the Ravens, yeah, great. But I don't know that they're going to transcend your secondary,
Right. If they slide to you in the early second round, you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Right.
I'm going to have Malaki Starks for the next 10 years, and you can move him around and, positionless football, and he can match up in a lot of different ways. Xavier Watts is number 3 for me as well. Is he 3 for you?
He's 4. I'm in love with Winston. I really am.
And I would absolutely see Winston going sooner because he's just got a better physical profile. He's 6'1" and a half, 213, 4.51. He was kind of out of sight, out of mind this year a little bit, and I think teams will probably like him more than what maybe some fans out there paying attention to mock drafts. He just hadn't showed up a lot in mock drafts throughout the winter and the spring. Xavier Watts, I love the instincts, but I think for a lot of teams they're going to be like, he's just not a premier athlete, so I'm going to wait on that. So he's Xavier Watts kind of in that top 50 second round range as the 3rd safety a lot. I wouldn't be shocked if he slides a little bit, but I would take him all day if he does slide at the top of the 3rd round. 6 feet, 205. Just takes the ball away. Smart and instinctive. Ran a 4.58, which is like, is he athletic enough on the back end? He's not the biggest guy either. He kind of looks smaller than what his 6 feet, 205 listed is. And so I could see him sliding, and then teams just get a really good player.
Yeah, and I think coaches will love him. He's in the right place. He takes the ball away. Some of them were tips and things like that, but he doesn't blow you away athletically. Great above the neck, as we mentioned. I might bet everything I own that he's going to be the Bengals' 2nd round pick since they just hired Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, and they've been looking for Jesse Bates since he left, and that'd be a great pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 5 for me might be Andrew Makuba out of Texas, even though
my 5th one's tough.
He's kind of too small. He's 5'11", 186, but 4.45. He's fast. He can match up with you. He will play physical, definitely plays bigger than his size. And so some teams might say 186, I'm not going to draft you to be a starting safety. So he's going to slide. So that's the thing is like, man, I can get Makuba possibly on day 3. Now I like it. It reminds me of, look, I covered the 49ers. And so we're looking for players in the 49ers. The Niners really never replaced Jimmy Ward, another slender, undersized guy that plays bigger than his size. Makuba reminds me of Jimmy Ward. And so that's kind of my comp for him. Who's a starting safety and a really good player. So I do like him, but I could see the argument for a couple other guys. Billy Bowman comes downhill. He's fast, 5'10", 192, 4.42. He just misses too many tackles. And he does have short arms. So maybe
he's got a 71-inch wingspan. He can't even get his arms around guys.
So he's just a missile. And if he knocks you over, that's good. If he just can't wrap you up.
I couldn't put him in my top 5. I love the way he plays. I want him to be a gunner. You want him on your team. But he can't come downhill and stop Derrick Henry. I mean, he just bounces off dudes because he can't get his arms around him. He has no mass. I mean, he's 192 at the combine. He looks like he's 180 to me sometimes watching the tape. But I respect the heck out of the way he plays.
Mm-hmm.
I went with Sanker as my 5th just because of traits.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got some serious traits.
3 sleepers I like. Let's stick with the Cal theme, though. Craig Woodson. Really nobody at all talked about him. Look, he's played a lot of ball. He's an older player, 6th year senior, but he's 6 feet, 200, 4.45. He's solid. He might end up being a starting safety in the league and probably can play right away. Special teams value. So on day 3, I'll take that.
Yes.
Dan Jackson out of Georgia too.
I need to do more work on him.
Well, just a couple of big school guys. So Dan Jackson, 6 feet 194, was a starting safety at Georgia, ran a 4.45. Then you got RJ Mickens out of Clemson.
Mickens is another one, yeah.
200, ran 4.49. I mean, those are blue blood programs. Those guys usually go a lot higher that have height, weight, speed, and were starting players at Georgia and Clemson.
Yeah, I don't understand why people aren't higher on Mickens. I considered him for my top 5. I think there's a lot to like there. Another traitsy dude that's a little old is Keaton Crawford from Nevada. I liked him quite a bit. Again, a lot of these are special teamers, maybe your third safety, work their way into the starting spot. A guy I like a lot that plays a lot of slot that just isn't super fast is another big school, Malaki Moore from Alabama. Yeah.
He's kind of like the less athletic version of Malachi Starks.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, just be, he's kind of prospect fatigue. He's been on the, he's been on the radar for a long time. He just physically doesn't blow you away. 4.57 at 5'11", 197. But he's a good player too. And so someone's going to get a solid player there. Does he have the starting level traits? Is probably the question why Malaki Moore doesn't get much love out there.
Yeah. So, I mean, the safety class is kind of, I've warmed up to a little bit, to be honest with you. It's not blowing you away, but I
have my favorites, but if another team drafts them, you're not mad about it.
Not at all.
Yeah. There you go. That is the class of linebackers, corners, and safeties. Who's your favorite? Let us know at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL, and get your questions in for this week's mailbag. We are here. It is draft week. What questions do you have leading into the 2025 NFL draft? You can drop a question in the YouTube comments as well. Subscribe while you're there. Matt and I back tomorrow right here, Peacock and Williamson.